Don't say anything stupid because then she'll be like, oh, you guys messed it all up. Okay, ready? Negative b plus or minus the square root, big old square root. And then under the square root, you're going to have b squared, so whatever b is, you square it, minus 4 times a times c. All of that is under the square root. So it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared. And all we do is fill in numbers in place of a, b, and c all over 2 times a. So there's 3 methods to solve quadratic equations, right? 3 methods to solve quadratic equations. Factoring we already did. Completing the square we already did. Quadratic formula we already did is the one that we bring in right now. And it truly is just knowing this formula. So what can we do so that you remember this formula? Because inevitably, usually students in this class will say, oh, are you going to put the formula on the test? No, I'm not. I don't really believe in putting formulas on there.
You can write it at the top of the test as soon as you get it.
True, but you got to remember it long enough to get it down. You know, they say that 7 is the magic number. Like if you either say it to yourself 7 times or you write it 7 times, or even better, write it and say it while you're writing it. But 7 is like the magic number that makes it stick. You know, some teachers have their cutesy little songs. You really don't think that would be me, though, do you? You know the song Pop Goes the Weasel? You know, lots of teachers have it to that song, which drives me crazy because that's like having a gnat stuck in your brain. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like when you get a stupid thing stuck in your brain? That song is like that. And I found this video one time, which is much more my personality. So I have to show you the quadratic formula song. Imagine how lots of teachers would do Pop Goes the Weasel. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh. Let's see if I can get our sound to work. I wonder if my sound's turned on. Oh, I don't want that. Go away. Stop, little man. I gotta turn around so I can get my sound on. You don't want to miss it, do you? Can you all be trusted?
Yes.
There might be one little part that's not necessarily kingdom appropriate, but you can handle that, right?
Yeah.
Tony, can you handle that? Okay. I wasn't sure. I wanted to make sure everybody was on board. Hey, notice the that little pink thing that the little stick man's holding. You see it?
It's a parabola.
Oh, it's a parabola. That's what we're doing next. Parabolas. That's a little stick man cute. You don't think they're cute?
The parabola? No.
Oh, the little stick men. Hey! Hey! I don't want... Aw. I am not happy about this.
Saw a man on the street with a parabola in his hand. He said, "Sir, please help me. I don't understand, and I've been having troubles. This problem's all my fears." So I took out my notebook and I wiped away his tears with the quadratic formula.
By the end, it's going to be in your brain all day. You gotta love the quality, don't you? You're gonna go into your next class period saying, over 2A. Here comes the good part. Did you hear what he just said? Oh, did you hear what he just said? He said, though I couldn't factor it. So when do you use the quadratic formula? If you can't factor it. Okay, well, back up a little second there.
Although I couldn't factor it, I attacked the equation fast. Did I plug in the coefficients? Yep, you bet you're gonna ask me if I could explain it. This problem's down the drain. That's exactly when he stuck a knife into my brain.
Isn't that funny?
Why did you do this? Do you even care? Didn't I just help you? Didn't I?
Listen, didn't I just complete the square? So you can either use factoring or completing the square or quadratic formula. It's gonna turn back to kingdom again. Here it comes.
Quadratic formula. Quadratic formula. And it's A B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus.
Say it in your brain. Say it in your brain because it'll stick. Oh, look. It's going to Stickman heaven.
Quadratics, cubics, quintics, quartics got the best of me. But as I lay here dying, a strange peace over me.
Oh,
Knowing that upon my tombstone carved for all the world to see.
that's just a happy ending right there.
Quadratic formula. Quadratic formula. Quadratic formula. Quadratic formula. And it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Over 2a. Over 2a. Over 2a. One more time.
Oh, look.
Quadratic formula. Quadratic formula.
Stickman dance.
Let's bring it way down. Quadratic formula. Quadratic formula. And it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Over 2a. Over 2a. Over 2a. Over 2a.
Yeah. When I was in Chicago, I taught what's called a resource class, which means like everybody in there is in some kind of special ed program. And so they had like their own, like, I want to say there was like 10 kids in there, probably 7 of them had their own individual aide that was in the class with them, like that sat next to them to make sure they didn't like do something crazy. And didn't I tell you about this class, the kid who ate paper? I told you that, didn't I? No. Well, anyway, yeah, there was one kid who had to write on colored paper because otherwise he would eat the paper. Literally, there's like a disease called pica that you like eat inanimate objects, which I always thought was weird because to me, if it were colored, wouldn't it look more delicious? I would be more likely to eat it if it were colored. I don't know. I guess because it was, I don't know, like the color, I didn't want to get rid of it. But anyway, and so we were doing quadratic formula and I showed this to them. And the next day, one of the kids came back with his guitar and played it. He's like, I want to play it. Don't show the video. I want to play it. I was just like, and he just like that. Like I couldn't believe it. Anyway, he couldn't do the quadratic formula, but he could sing the song. All right, so how do we use it, you ask? Well, first we have to set the equation equal to 0. First, we have to set the equation equal to 0. You have to do that because that's how you identify the A, B, and C. So x squared minus, I'll go ahead and move everything over to the x squared side. So x squared, oh, it's got all thick on me, minus 2x minus 1 equals 0. All right, I don't know what just happened. And so now the a is the number in front of the x squared, because remember right here, the a is the number in front of the x squared. So what number is in front of that x squared right there? A 1. So a is 1. And the b is the number in front of the x term. So be careful, it's not just 2, but negative 2. So the b is negative 2. And the c is the number at the end. So the c is negative 1. Now, I think it's helpful in the beginning to kind of write that down. After that, you don't really have to. And now I just write the formula plugging those numbers in. So don't forget your x equals. So if b is negative 2, then in my formula I need negative b. So what would I use? Positive 2 plus or minus square root. What is b squared? 4. And my suggestion to you, even though I'm going to allow you to use your calculator here in a minute, but my suggestion is you always do that squaring in your head, because otherwise people tend to write negative 2 squared in the calculator and it'll give them negative 4. But we all know negative 2 squared is positive 4, right? Okay, so b squared minus, and now I want 4 times a, so 4 times 1 times c times negative 1. So you see how I'm writing out 4 times a times c. Whoops. If you want to do the multiplication in your head, that's fine. Just be careful with the signs. All over 2 times a would just be what? 2. Okay? So let's simplify. I've got 2 plus or minus. So here's where the calculator would come in handy. Under the square root, what am I going to get? Be careful with the signs. Isn't it going to turn into 4 plus 4? I think it's going to turn into an 8 under there. 4. Well, do we agree that 4 times 1 is 4?
Yes.
And then if I have a negative right here and another negative right here, won't it turn into a 4 plus 4? You can put it in your calculator if you want, but it's going to turn out to be an 8 under there. All over 2. So this is the answer. You're like, oh my gosh, it's ugly. Well, so what? It's the answer. So is that 2 solutions?
Yes.
Yes. It's either 2 plus the square root of 8 over 2. That's one solution. Or 2 minus the square root of 8 over 2. That's your second solution.
So if the 8 were to be a negative, would it be?
Exactly. Funny you said that. We're going to do one like that. I think. I hope. Everybody okay with this? So let's go down to letter C. Is it in the right form to pick out your A, B, and C? No. So the first thing I need to do is put it in the right form. So I'm going to say x squared plus 6x plus 13 equals 0. So now can you identify A, B, and C? They're all positive, right? 1, 6, and 13? Okay, so we write out our formula. X equals, what would negative B be? Right. If you need to the side, write A equals 1 and B equals 6 and C equals 13. That's fine. I'm not saying you have to, but if it helps you. And so you said negative B would be negative 6 plus or minus the square root of B squared, 36, minus 4. When I say times A, if it's times 1, do I really need to write it?
No.
So times A times C all over 2A. So here's where your calculator might come in handy. If I simplify under the square root, negative 6 plus or minus, what am I going to get under the square root? If you do 36, and you can just type that whole thing in, 36 minus 4 times 13, doesn't it come out to be negative 16? Okay, and what did somebody just ask me? Hey, isn't it a bad thing to have the negative under the square root? So what would we say? No real solution. Got the idea? And so basically, the homework, if you skip down to page 119, is just those first 6 problems. It's just practicing using the quadratic formula. I should have made 7 since it takes 7 to remember it, doesn't it? Shoot.
What page number?
Page 119, 1 through 6. 119, 1 through 6. It is just doing the quadratic formula on those 6 problems. Okay? Perfect timing. See you guys. How was the quiz? No problem? Which one did you get stuck on, Maddie?
I am just not the best at factoring, so I'm like really slow at it.
Didn't you miss that first day in here of factoring?
I did.
I was thinking that you did.
I did miss it.
Haley, were you fine on the completing the square ones? Aren't those the ones you were worried about?
I'm just like, you really want to get them on this quiz.
Oh, well, sure.
I always
If you
check over them. I checked over this one like really, really good. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think I do. If I have an extra pair, I'll bring it. I should. Thank you.
See you, Angela.
But I honestly think all my leggings are like gone.
Maddie, looks like your neck's healing up.
It is healing. It was way worse before.
I know.
You're still recording, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you told me that.
You're welcome.
Or if you can